Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Lucifer Season 5 finale, a great finale, an incredible finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I really love that intro because I had no idea what that was going to be. I thought that was going to be like a case situation where it was oh, are they really going to be working on a case while dealing with this whole war situation? I was wondering, but I thought that was incredible because I didn't know what they were doing with that, and then the bus went off, and I was like, is one of them going to be surviving and they get away? I didn't know what that was because it just seemed so unrelated, and then we circle back to that later on, but obviously where we really start is with Lucifer, lamenting over everything, and his brother showing up, offering him a deal. It's like, okay, I'll become the new god, you get to rule in hell with Chloe by your side. And it's like, wait, what are you talking about? She's not going to go to hell. It's like, she's obviously going to go to heaven. But it's like, actually, because of Dan's death, she's going to feel guilt. She's going to feel guilt about it. And so her guilt is going to drive her to hell, which is like, because it's like, wait, did you manipulate all of this? It's like, no, Dan's circumstances, he did ultimately have Dan killed, and that's why they decided to do that, because I'm sure it wouldn't have done them any good, like actually killing a cop. But it's mainly he did it because it was like, right, this is a golden opportunity, because this way, in his twisted mind, he's giving Lucifer everything he wants. It's like, hey, you get to rule in hell, you get your own throne. It's like, oh, it's I'm in heaven ruling, you're back in hell ruling, it all works out, and you get to have Chloe by your side. But the thing is, Michael is so stupid, he doesn't, he doesn't try to understand or know his brother. It's like, this isn't what he wants. He wouldn't want, despite, yes, he would want to be with Chloe, but he wouldn't want Chloe to have to rule, in it. But for him, it's also like, no, I'm not backpedaling. I've grown and I've changed too much. This isn't about what I want anymore. This is what the world needs. So, obviously, him and Chloe talk later on. And obviously, he tells Chloe everything about, he's telling her not to feel guilty, that this is all part of Michael's manipulation, that we don't need to go down this route. But, obviously, him telling her not to feel her guilt, it's like, she's like, all right, well then, how about you feel worthy? It's not that easy, and he should know that better than anyone. And obviously, that's not what he meant, but he didn't want her to end up like Dan. And she's like, well, what about Dan? And it's like, he's in heaven, right? Tell me he is. And he's like, I can't, detective. And obviously he doesn't want her to share that same fate. It's like, it's already bad enough Dan is in hell when he doesn't need to be, but his own guilt put him there, Especially knowing too, your brother had a part to play in that. That pisses Lucifer off the most, And then Romeo shows up and she was killed. It's like the stab wounds and everything. It's like, right, but if it was a flaming sword, there'd be flame marks, but it's like, there's not. So he doesn't have he never found, I think I might have said AJ last episode, it's TJ, I believe, the dude who has the final piece to everything, Amenadiel's necklace. So obviously they've got to try and find it before Michael does, because that's the only way to sway this war, and it sucks. It's like, it's one loss after another. He just lost, honestly, let's face it, his good friend. Yeah, they had their adversarial, but Dan was a good man and a good friend, and Trixie's dad. Plus, now he just lost a sibling, because it's like, right, she died because Michael found out she was spying for us, and he did this. So, Lucifer and her, get Ella involved, which obviously Ella's missing Dan like crazy, and she's like, I know you kind of do everything you do for a reason, so she's like, and I kind of accept that, but it's like, sometimes for her, it's like, I know, darkness, there's a brighter light. No matter how deep the darkness, there's always a bit of light there. But it's like, for her, she's not feeling it right now, because she's even feeling it's almost like you're not up there. But she's like, you know what? I'm crazy to even think that. I know you are, but it's just like, she's just like, just give me a sign, show me I'm where I need to be. And Chloe and Lucifer get her involved because they need her with looking into Ramiel's feather, because there's certain materials on it. Maybe it can give them an idea of where she might have tracked TJ down. And so obviously Ella's examining it, and she's like, you don't have to, you guys can, you can tell me anything, right? I think I know what this is all about. He's like, you really do? She's like, yeah. You hit an emu with your... she's like, they're so big and everything. And it's like, right, Lucifer can't lie to her, so he would just be like, never mind. So it's luckily she kind of walked away, but it's like, well, what do they do? Obviously, most likely, Michael's already got angels looking for TJ, and it's like, well, how do we shift this? And it's like, Ella, we get Ella involved, and I love that. And it's like, Ella, Miss Lopez, she's like, yes, is like, can I ask you for one last favor? I was like wondering what it was going to be. But ultimately, they found TJ. It's interesting because he wouldn't give up the piece. I wonder, is it because it's like, nah, I feel strong, I feel powerful. Like, there's no way I'm giving this power up. I mean, I'm sure we've seen time and time again throughout history, humans can be like that. You give us some power, we're going to run with it. And it's like, I'm not about to give this up. So fending off two angels too shows you like, yeah, he's on that celestial, not quite there, but, and then Michael shows up saying, just give it over. But ultimately, when Michael was like, they give him a choice, I was surprised. I was like, oh, Michael's not immediately going for it. Because I was like, okay, is he going to try and prove that he's not worse, that he's better than Lucifer? Because even one of his siblings is like, go ahead, Dad's not around. The whole rule about killing humans, nah, that's off the board too now. So, but it turns out it was Lucifer in disguise. Ella helped him put makeup on to have a scar and everything. It's like, it's about time Lucifer was able to shift that around. His brother's done all the pretending to be him. About time it went on the other foot. But for him, it's like, I'm not, even if it means playing the role of my brother, I'm not going to go that far to kill an innocent human. But then, like, Michael shows up and kills him anyway. Luckily, Chloe was there. We never got her interactions with flying, because it turns out, like, just as, like, because, like, obviously she shoots Michael to kind of distract him, but then Lucifer, like, flaps away, and so does she. So it's like, we never found out whether or not she passes out or pukes from it. We don't really get to see that, but, obviously there's, like, you know, kind of adding a little levity to it is, like, the whole Charlie, Linda, and Amenadel thing. Well, earlier there was that sweet moment with Maze. Obviously it's like, you know, you have Amenadel looking at a picture of him and Dan at a game, and obviously Magic King's like, let's just get this done. We don't need to look at all this sentimental crap. And then she sees an Instinct shirt, and she starts bawling. Oh, first she wraps around her fist and punches the TV or something. For her, it was like, right, despite all that she's saying, she got emotional in that moment. And for her, it was a thing of this shirt. She's like, right, when I stripped him naked and left him at the doorstep, he was kind of forced to wear this. So, she, you know, she's like, I'm thinking about the good times of Dan, like the time we got together and beat up some bad guys. And in a minute I was like, yep, those sweet memories. And it's just like, yeah, that's Magic King's version of sweet, and I loved it. It was nice. But I love what Linda said. It was essentially, basically, it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. Because it is a thing of, I know it hurts. That's the problem. Like, yes, there is pain and loss. It's a terrible feeling. But if you didn't have that, you wouldn't have it. It's the price of joy, you know? Because even a minute ago, I was like, right, to not feel what we're feeling right now would have meant never knowing Dan. And I wouldn't want that. And I know you would. None of us would have, you know? And Magic Kingdom agrees. It's that thing of, like I said time and time again. Once again, it's that line from Kingdom Hearts I will always go back to. That, you know, hurt is proof that you cared about something. Because if you're not hurting, that means, you know, hurting is because you loved something and you lost it, you know? And I think, you know, there's, you know, with sadness there is joy. It's just the flip side of the coin. You can't kind of have one without the other. But you kind of wouldn't want to. Once again, it's like, it's better to have loved and lost than never have loved at all, you know? So, and obviously keeping that in mind, because it was like, yeah, you'd rather have loved someone, you know, even for a limited amount of time, than basically going through your entire life never loving. And so she shows up, you know, to check on Eve, which Eve's on a date with a dude named Steve, and it's like, oh, I'm waiting for someone. It's like, oh, I know. Magic like, I'm Steve. And it's like, what? Oh, no wonder I kind of liked your dark, you know, sense of humor and everything. It's like, granted, you didn't know I was Steve at the time, so you were already dating. It's like, well, you broke up with me. And it's like, beside the point. And it's just like, Mazikeen's made her decision. She's like, I would, what was it she said? It was something that could easily be misinterpreted. It was like, I'm okay if you, like, it was, I'm paraphrasing it because I don't remember the exact quote, but it was basically like, I'm fine with you dying or something like that. And she's like, that's the sweetest thing anyone's ever said to me. And it's like, wait, so does that mean, like, and it's like, yep. You know, Mazikeen's taking that step forward, you know, so I thought that was pretty dope. But obviously, Amenadel getting filled in, you know, well, especially with that scene with Charlie, which I thought was sweet, him and Linda. This was what I was going to bring up first, was like the whole like he keeps falling thing. She's like, he's behind the other kids and everything, we need to get him into a program. It's like, a minute ago I was like, no, it's fine. And she's like, what, you're fine with him getting hurt? You out of anybody? Especially considering he was the overprotective parent. But for him, it's like, it's not like we're signing him up for a cage fight. It's okay to fall. I've fallen many times, and luckily because I did, I managed to get back up, and that's the most important part. Despite me falling over and over again, I got back up, and I'm here right now. So Charlie is the same. She's like, oh, that's sweet. I'm gonna make a chart for all of this stuff. So I thought that was Linda being Linda. But obviously, Aminadel, Chloe, and Lucifer have to bury Remy. But obviously for him, it's like Lucifer's pissed off because it's like, right, Dad's mysterious ways and plans. And it's like, really? Is this just like, our sister's dead? She didn't have to die. He's like, if I made the right choice, I made the wrong choice. And now just like so many people have to suffer the ramifications for it. But, you know, it's like Dad left this in our hands to decide. And it's like, what, you know, for us to die? And he's like, yes, even us to die, Lucy. Like, it comes down to choices and stuff like that. Because even Lucifer was like, I could have killed a single person. It's not like TJ was a great person. He was a fence. Like, I could have stopped all of this. But for Chloe, it's like the fact is, willing to save a single soul, like, you know, that kind of separates you. Like, it's, trying to save a single soul is never kind of worthless, you know? So Magic King shows up because Chloe wants to fight, but Lucifer doesn't want her to have anything to do with this fight. Because it's like, right, we don't know about, we don't have an army on our side, which Aminadel suggests the demons. It's like, right, there's a whole army waiting that kind of serves you, you know? So, you know, Chloe wants to fight too, but it's like, she doesn't have a weapon that could hurt them. But it's like, right, Magic King gives her the blade. She's like, I don't know how to use this. And she's like, we'll find a way around it. I'm like, how is she going to... And we get an answer to that later, but we'll get to that soon enough. But obviously Chloe's like, I am fighting, but Lucifer doesn't want her to fight because she could get caught up in the crossfire about all. But yeah, but obviously Aminadel puts the stipulation. We bring the demons in, but there's no death. These are still our siblings. And, you know, Lucifer says, right, it's not, no, saving a single life isn't, you know, worthless. That it's the right thing to kind of do. So they're locked and loaded and ready for battle. Obviously, Maze is taking a little bit to get the ball rolling with the demons and everything. So Lucifer, Aminadel, and Chloe go ahead and it's like, right, we're going to have to stall. And it's like, all right, do you submit, brother? He's like, yes, you are God. Awful, look at what you're wearing. Oh my God. It's like, but he's not submitting. And obviously it's like, I'm calling for a vote. And it's like, you know, obviously Michael's like, so which one of you is going to like not vote for me? And no one says anything. And it's like, well, fine. You know, it's time for some truth. I'm going to tell you guys why I'm really deciding to be God. And Ezekiel talks. And he's like, yeah, Lucifer told me the real reason. For love. And everyone's kind of laughing. He's laughing and everything else. Haha. But he's like, honestly, there's no better reason. The fact is that you are willing to do that. You know, that's the best reason to, like, you know, so he's like, Lucifer has my support. And it's this like monumentous moment. And another comes over as well. It's one of the siblings he had talked to earlier, telling them about the fact is that Michael did kill Remy because, you know, it's like, you know, heavy is the crown, heavy is the head that wears a crown and everything. So it's kind of like a necessary evil in his mind. So, but I love that whole thing of like, right, you know, and he's like, well, the vote's still in my favor, so I am God, and nothing happens. And I love it. Just, I expected like some light show or something like, you know, God. And it's like, then Gabriel comes over and is like, maybe it has to be a unanimous thing. And it's like, well, maybe that's the case. Well, all we have to do to remedy that is to kill all those who are, you know, on my side. And so the other sibling walks back on the other side, and Aminadel leans in. Mother never liked you. I'm like, that's so petty. But the others decide to stay. It's like, all right, we got to still stall for time. All right. And then like Lucifer busts into can't touch this. I'm like, why are you doing that? I was like, which made me very Guardians of the Galaxy, you know? And that's what immediately went to my mind. It's like, what are you doing? And like everyone's joining in. Zadkiel was doing it too. I'm like, yo! And then like Gabriel, she's behind Michael dancing a little bit and almost looking like, well, come on. Like, I can't help it. You know, maybe it's, you know, and they're like, oh my God, yeah, God's back. He's making us sing and dance. But it's like, no, you're stalling. But luckily he was able to. And the demon squad rolls up. And obviously Lilith speaking, as it says, like Lilith, Nazakina speaking Lilum, she tells everyone get ready for the fight, and Eve's like, oh, it's so sexy. She's like, not right now, but maybe later. And it's like, oh, look at you two already. So they came locked and loaded. But like I said, I like that interesting development. Like, right, that's the people that died. Is like, right, they needed bodies. So that's where that kind of plays in the role. Because I forgot, like, right. Once again, it's interesting how that works. Angels, I guess because of their nature. Because that's also the thing about Maze too. I guess because Lucifer is able to make the rules, so like maybe like because that's interesting. Like no other demon is like Maze, where it's like because Maze is just in her own body. That's once again like the angels and God was, but like the goddess needed a body, hence why she chose Charlotte and everything. But obviously we've seen like even back in season 4, like demons need to come to Earth, they need a freshly dead body to kind of hijack it, and very much like the goddess. So it's interesting. Maybe that's a byproduct if you don't... Well, no, because they still had to do that even with Lucifer's permission of knowing what's going on. They still had to, like, possess bodies. I was about to say, like, maybe the goddess didn't really have God's, like, because she did it on her own. She kind of found maybe a roundabout way to kind of get here. So maybe that's why... I don't know. I'm overthinking it, but it's just interesting aspect to it. But obviously for Lucifer, it's like, you know, there needs to be no bloodshed. So let's go mano a mano, brother. And they do. I know he's like, well, I have the flaming sword. Before he even gets a word out, Lucifer sucker punches him, and it's like, all right, they get to it. But eventually, you had Amenadiel taking Zachiel's staff and giving it to him. For him, it's like, it's the last piece of the tree of life. I was like, oh, interesting. Which I don't know if that's still the... Because is that the tree of life? I don't know. I'm not maybe mixing... I'm definitely mixing stuff up. Because I know Idris... Isn't that what Idris... Or is it the tree of knowledge? It's a tree of life in Norse mythology, right? I don't know if that's the same thing or not. I don't think it is. I mean, there's a lot of stuff, like, between mythologies and, like, religions and stuff like that. There is crossover in certain things. You just kind of have different names for stuff. So that's why I'm like, I wonder, is that what that is? I don't know. Like, those might be two separate things. The Idrisil and the Tree of Life. I think they're the same thing. Do correct me in the comments down below, but I could be wrong. But obviously it's like, yo, full-on angel fight. Like, this is the most, like, angel fight we've really gotten. I don't think Amenadiel and Lucifer ever really went toe-to-toe like this. Not to my recollection, but still. Wings out and everything to the skies. But it seems like Lucifer's on the losing end. But it turns out, well, first and foremost, Chloe, I forgot like how to talk about it, but the fact is she's got bullets. It's like, right, melting down a demon blade turned into like quite a few bullets. And I was like, oh, that's pretty dope. Turning it into a form that Chloe can take advantage of. So... with Chloe's help, they end up separating the flaming sword, like, you know, it being in pieces, like, it can't be the flaming sword anymore. So Lucifer grabs the blade, and he's like, hey, Azrael, you're here, with the angel of death on my side. And she's like, sorry, Luce. And it's like, he's like, what? He's like, no. And then Michael stabs Chloe. He's like, no, what? What do you... No! It's like, why is it... What? I was like, no, it's got to work out, right? It's got to be okay. Like, someone can save her. And in that moment, Lucifer's holding her, and she's saying, like, it's okay. Like, she's letting go of her guilt. And even saying that this isn't his fault, about, like, you know, even her guilt about Dan and everything. And she's like, I let it go. And she's like, I love you. And dies in his arms. And even Michael, like, there's some twisted part of Michael that does seem like he kind of regretted. He's like, right, you know, she let go of her guilt, so she can go to heaven. Sadly, you'll never be able to go with her. But, you know, I tried to give you away. I tried to give you all away. I tried to tell her not to be here. And I tried to tell you beforehand not to do all this. But obviously for him, it's like, no, I can still save her. It's not her time. And Lucifer, and he's like, well, you're going to go to heaven? He's like, you can't go. Because I don't know if that came up before. Like, because I think this is the first episode they mentioned it, like, because when he was talking to Lucifer at the beginning of the episode, he's saying, like, yeah, you can't go there, or you'll basically burn to a crisp or something like that, because you were, or maybe I think Lucifer used those specific words, but he was talking about you can't ever go to heaven because you're banishment, which is kind of interesting to know that, like, God never lifted that, but maybe that was the whole point. Like, he wanted, you know, in his own way, it's like trials and everything. It is kind of sad that you made the path here quite bloody, that, like, Chloe kind of had to die, that Dan had to die, that one of your children had to... It's kind of, like, messy, that it's kind of, like, also kind of like it's kind of jacked up type of thing. But obviously Maze was super pissed about it, and so... Amenadiel is telling her to hold, but it's like, for her, it's like, no, I've lost another person to this whole thing. Bump that, and, like, all the demons go charging, and it turns into a fight, knocking out, well, killing some of the angels, or at very least heavily wounding them. One demon gets his head knocked off, Aminadab kind of takes a few down, so things are kind of getting heated on that front. But regardless of what happens to him at the end of the day, Lucifer's like, I don't care. I'm going to get Chloe back, no, even if I have to burn as a price for it. So he goes to heaven, comes crashing down like a meteorite, which obviously we see Chloe's reunited with her dad, knowing that she's in heaven's pretty dope. And it's like, oh, Lucifer's like, how the hell am I still alive? And we find out it's like, because Lilith's immortality in the ring is keeping him alive. It's like, it's a good thing Maze gave that bat to you, or you'd be burning right now. But I love who we get to see. I'm like, yes, it's my boy Lee. Even though this is like the second half of season 5, it's like, ever since he got introduced in the story, he pops up once a season. So if you want to technically count this as season 5B or part 2 as a different season, you could count it as like, oh, this is his appearance for the season. But it's like, wait, why are you here? It's like, am I in heaven? Did I make a wrong turn? He's like, no, you're in heaven. You're in the right place. Because for him, it's like, because of your advice, he's like, wait, you went through the door. He's like, yeah, I faced my guilt. Because for Lucifer, it's like, no one's ever, like, once they've gone to hell, no one's been able to ever come back, go to heaven afterwards. And it's like, Lee, which immediately my brain was like, if he can do it, that means Dan can as well. So maybe it has some guilt over, like, a lot of the stuff that he's done. Maybe his guilt in particular is associated maybe with Charlotte. Maybe, like, whereas, like, Lucifer felt like he wasn't good enough for Chloe, that he wasn't worthy. Maybe, like, on some level, Dan felt like that about Charlotte. Like, I'm curious what his hell loop is, you know? But when it's all said and done, you know, Lee's willing to help him. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, you helped me, so I'm going to help you. You're a detective. She's over here. And it's like, obviously Lucifer doesn't have much time here, so he's trying to bring Chloe back. It's like, right, Trixie needs me. I left Trixie behind. I left her friends behind. I left you behind. But it's like, but she's like, I'm with my dad. But her dad is like, no, like, I'm going to be here waiting. Like, the fact is, you just, you know, because it seems like, as Lee kind of brought up, because I was curious, like, you know, what their heaven is like, because every heaven is a little different. Because, like, at least in the original way heaven was designed in Supernatural, obviously they changed it at the end because Jack kind of changed things, was initially like everyone's got their own personal heaven, like you open the door there. So they kind of go with that a little bit because Lee's like, yeah, there's multiple rooms. He's like, I'm still trying to navigate my way around, but I think it's supposed to, like, but obviously they changed it a little bit where like everyone's connected. You can kind of go to everyone's heavens, like no one's kind of separated anymore type of thing. Kind of spoilers a little bit for the final, well, the finale of Supernatural stuff. Regardless, but obviously Lucifer's like, the ring doesn't have enough to send us both back, so you have to go back, because he's like, the world still needs Chloe Decker, you know. And it's like, it's a sweet moment, and you know, he's burning up, you know, and it's like, I have to send you back, you know. It's because, you know, I choose you, Chloe. It's like, because I love you. And he explodes in light, and Chloe comes back. And obviously Michael's going to kill her again, but luckily she's still holding on to Aminadab's piece, and that gives her super strength. And she starts wailing on Michael. You're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And she gets on top of him. Bam, 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 bam. Takes the knife, and it's like, you took the man I love away from me. And he's like, go ahead, do it. But luckily Lucifer comes back, and it's like, Chloe, don't. This isn't you. And he takes the blade and the piece, puts it together, and summons the flaming sword again. And it's like, right. It was a battle to the death, right, brother? And he opens up his wings. And in that moment, Lucifer, I was like, I figured Lucifer was going to do what he did and slices off his wings. It's like, Earth gave me a second chance. Everyone deserves one. I got my second chance here on Earth. You deserve, even you deserve your second chance, Michael, you know? So he's letting his brother live, and obviously all the fighting comes to a stop with Lucifer's return. And Aminadab kind of nods in acknowledgement of it and everything. But it's like, right. So, but in that moment, everyone's looking at him, and Aminadab just kind of bows down. And then slowly, everyone else does as well. It's like, holy crap. It's like, yeah, he's standing there with the flaming sword of like, right, how am I back? I'm supposed to be dead. It's like, wait, you know? He's like, oh my me. And it's like, okay, because it's not just the angels, even the demons are, it's like, what does that mean now? So like, is Mazikeen still going to be the queen of hell? It's like, well, there was a whole thing of like, right, hell's not going to need a warden anymore, and maybe that's where, because God knew things were going to be this way. So it's like, what does that mean for this? You know, it's like, what does it mean for Lucifer? I mean, obviously you can see Chloe being like, right, you're God now, but that's also like, once again, her big concerns about, well, what does that mean about us? Questions like that. But it's also like, maybe because in his own way Lucifer's going to reunite both sides of the world, heaven and hell, like things are going to be running differently. Like maybe he's going to have to micromanage both, it's like, well, Maze isn't going to want to go to hell anymore because she's with Eve now. So like, but it's not supposed to need a warden. So how is that going to work out? I don't know. Obviously, like, what does this mean for Michael? Like, is there a path of redemption for him? What does that look like? Will we even see him going forward, or will he just be out doing his own thing out there in the world? I don't know. There's a lot to be considered in this, and it's just kind of like I said, I love that being the final line of the episode. Oh my me. And it's like, well, you got it at the end, Lucifer. What that means, we'll have to wait and see. I had to look it up to confirm, but Lucifer is returning for its 6th and final season, because I remember the showrunners, I believe, for Lucifer were talking about it at DC Fandom, because I think I've talked about this too. Like, they originally planned for the 5th season to be the final season, but then Netflix came to them and was like, hey, would you want to do a 6th season? And for them, it's like, right, they were kind of happy with wrapping things up a certain way. I don't know whether they changed the ending to this, because I think when they were doing DC Fandom, I think they had finished filming the musical episodes, hence why they gave us a clip of it, or maybe that's all they had done at that time. I don't remember, but maybe they hadn't fully wrapped up what they had planned for season 5, so maybe they changed the ending a little bit to kind of leave it open-ended leading into the 6th and final season. But for them, they were like, yeah, Netflix kind of approached us about whether we want to do a 6th season. And they're like, well, they were kind of satisfied with how things wrap up, apparently. But then they were like, honestly, we do have an idea for season 6. So I'm curious, like, how much they shifted or changed, or was season 5's finale, what would have been the series finale, was open-ended. I would assume just that it is so open-ended that it, but like, especially looking at the episode title, A Chance for a Happy Ending, you would think like that would be the final episode. But regardless, I'm never going to turn down some more Lucifer. It's kind of sad to know it's coming to an end, but I think it's only rightful for where the story is heading. I'm excited to see what season 6 has in store for us. I'm curious, is it going to be a longer season? Because we're going to be like basically closing up storylines, so what that necessarily means. Obviously, once again, Lucifer's relationship with his siblings, now that he's kind of the head honcho, once again, heavy burden of, holding that crown. Obviously, he's going to have his brother's support there, but also like where him and Chloe stands. What about the Dan situation, Maze, Eve, their relationship, where that's going to take them. Obviously, Ella dealing with her own stuff, her darkness. Her and Carol, whether that's going to stick around and be a thing. Also, will we, in the end, get Ella finding out the truth about Lucifer? Or are we going to make it crazy where it's like she's the only one that finally and ultimately never finds out the truth about Lucifer? I think it'd be kind of funny. Because Ella got introduced in season 2, didn't she? If I'm not mistaken, yeah. I don't think she was in season 1. I don't remember. I don't think so. I could be. I'm pretty sure season 2 was her first season. So, but yeah, I'm so excited. Once again, this was just in totality. This was just a great season. Like, Lucifer never makes bad season. The show has been great since the beginning, and it's just gotten better and just more fun, even more dramatic and emotional. Like, oh my God, the tears, dude. Ugh. Once again, last episode shook me. I was shooketh. Sorry. I'm being a dork right now, but I love this show so much. It's so damn good. And, I'm so excited to see what they do for the 6th and final season. Like I was saying, like how long it's going to be. Obviously, season 4 ended up being 10 episodes. Season 5, obviously, they split it up. So would season 6 be the same way? Or will season 6 be a short, 10-episode thing? Will it be an 8-episode thing? Since we are wrapping up storylines, they might make it a little shorter. Because final seasons tend to be shorter. Not always. It depends on the network. It depends on the TV show. I think Netflix usually... I don't know about most of their shows, like whether their final seasons are always shorter or not. Regardless... we'll just have to wait to hear some news about, what ultimately ends up going down. So, but yeah, really that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.